Be the mic holder.
Be the bike motor.
Mike the Chris holder. Chris the mic holder.
Now, give them some space to do their introduction.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh, this could be an introduction.
This is staying in. This is definitely staying in.
We love it. We love it already.
Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farron, co-owner of the company Horns of Odin, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Mathias Nordvik.
Hello. Now, this time we have the pleasure of welcoming Maria Franz, Christopher Jull, and Kai-Uwe Faust from Heilung on our podcast. Welcome. It is wonderful to see you all again. How are you guys doing?
Great, I would say. We're having a good time in the studio. We're sitting in Christopher's recording studio in Copenhagen, outside of Copenhagen, Lava Studios, which is our cave. We built it for Heilung, more or less, and of course other projects. But we're spending a lot of time here composing and. Kai wanted to smash a shield for a couple of days. We didn't get to do that yet, but maybe tomorrow, who knows?
The mood is building up.
That's exactly what I would expect a band like you to do as well. I think we should just end the episode right now and just be, that's it, done.
Yeah, we're sorry. We have to go and smash a shield, so that's it. Bye.
So I imagine at the minute you guys have a lot of extra time, without mentioning the word that shan't be named that we said before that we're not going to talk about. I imagine that gives you a lot of time to get in the studio and get some new stuff made, I hope. Yeah,
we kind of went back into our bubble from where everything started, and we've just kind of been there for some time, and we love it here. Actually, it is amazing. We are really diving deep into both artwork and sounds at the moment, and quite frankly, it's pretty nice. Just relaxing a little bit also, and we have a lot of trips outside in nature, and we do a lot of recordings outside also.
Yeah, I'm personally very grateful for the for the extra time we're getting, because we have been touring a lot, which is amazing fun. But now we really have time to really dive deep, to really, take time to find the perfect sounds, the perfect vibe and everything, to do research to an extent that was never possible before, and you will, whatever comes out of this later, you will feel this, you will hear this, and it's very valuable time.
Or maybe we just finally got so nerdy that no one actually is able to listen to What do you think of this sound of a dog with reverb on? It's just so nice.
Yeah, that's always a thing that could happen. You could just go so far in one direction and so specific. But I mean, I'm sure people would love it.
I think that is kind of what we thought we already did, but
I was going to say today I made an effort to a conscious effort to put your albums on in the background when I was in the workshop and listen to everything from beginning to end. And I mean, when you have a song that is maybe 4 minutes of just talking in German, I mean, I'm not a language specialist, but I assumed it was German. I think that's quite a bold statement. Anyway, you've put it out there, and that is what it is. People are gonna, I assume, love it or hate it. I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, that has a long tradition actually, because the poems, these super long German poems, I'm reciting them for a really long time, some of them for nearly 20 years, and I was performing them around the campfire on Viking markets internationally, and of course the people didn't speak German, but of course they had the luxury to see me in person and all my hand movements with it. But it was always about the feeling, right? It was always to give something. And I think if everyone would understand everything to the last detail, would take a little bit away from the mysticism. So I think it's
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I actually find it fun because I think the whole project here is a one giant language barrier in the first place. Because like literally some of the languages are dead. So at least with the German, you would have a possibility to look it up somewhere. But
I had no idea.
But
I had
but
to
I
Google,
mean,
I had to Google it.
I and I love it. I think what I think this project started kind of as Kai coming to me in the studio because he wanted to recite his German poems. That is kind of how we started. It was not like let's make this tribal band that's gonna hit all the Nordic charts or something. It was really just Kai wanting to record some poetry and me putting some sounds on it and one sound led to the other, and I was to Kai like, hey, can you sing a little bit also maybe? And Maria was coming by, and slowly this whole thing became Heilung.
So what you're telling me is a couple of friends are hanging out in his studio in the outskirts of Copenhagen, and then all of a sudden you break out the warrior gear and it's the Tøtteborg forest all over again.
I get the weirdness in it, and like that one day Maria was coming home and we were recording what became Krigsgalder later. And it was literally just Kai standing half naked in our backyard screaming, for the display of the whole area.
And at that time, we lived in an area which kind of suburban houses around, people walking their dogs and their small kids and everything. And I come home from my normal job at that point, just biking home and then like hearing from a distance, like, what the fuck is going on here?
Did you instantly know where it was coming from there?
Yeah.
Like deep down, you must have been like, yeah, that's Kai.
She knew the screams already,
And Kai is like, he's covered in tattoos, right? And just it was a warm day, so half naked in the garden, and people who didn't know recording equipment wouldn't even see the microphones. It just looked so insane.
Yeah, there was this tradition of people walking the dog near the garden. Yeah. They had a tendency to walk a little slower every time they walked by.
I bet. I mean, Kai, you probably could make an OnlyFans with that.
Oh, yeah, me half naked? No.
Yeah, you could make a lot of money.
Yeah, let's make a Kailender.
Wow. That might be the best pun yet. I like the way you leaned back then as well when you said it. And that was a good one, and you leaned back into the seat.
You would be surprised how many things his name fit into.
Yeah, sometimes we see the world through a kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
Kaleidoscope.
This could be a book. It could be like a little pamphlet that comes with the next album.
We need.
No, we can't talk about. No.
Top secret stuff. Top secret stuff.
Okay.
Oh, we nearly got an exclusive.
Actually, so going back to this subject of like the different languages and so on. So I can reveal something that a secret project that I'm working on. I'm actually writing an article about you. I'm researching you and picking you apart. So this is actually the more the listener experience of Heilung as sort of a band that builds the feeling and idea and experience of the past in a religious sense. So basically, like the neo-pagan experience of Heilung is what I'm researching right now with a buddy of mine, and
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's we're only in the beginning of the process, so there's still a lot of things that are going to happen. But this aspect of like singing in different languages, singing in dead languages, and all that stuff is something that, of course, I will be looking a lot into, and I think it's really an exciting thing to do in general. And I kind of wanted to ask you, what does it mean for you guys to be singing in all of these different languages and basically like synthesizing multiple older and modern languages in that way?
For me, that's it's an important thing to do, you know. And I think it's funny. The last time we talked, we talked about the Peterborough petroglyphs up there. And when I was there, I met an old Mohawk man, medicine man, I guess, that talked about that the rocks and the water that was flowing through the rocks was giving the people that lived in the area the language. And so the language came from the ground, right? And then I also had the idea that that must be something similar like that in Europe as well. And of course, when you go to the rock carvings these days, there is not much to hear apart from the highway and other stuff that is close by. But we have a lot of findings from our ancestors where they were writing already, and they were mainly writing, especially in the beginning, not so much in the later medieval times in Bergen, but especially in the beginning. The rune stuff has a lot of spiritual and religious content, and for me, that is a good way to connect or reconnect to our original path. It's maybe a stupid word, but to connect to the ancestors and like to connect to what is really our spirituality. That we don't have to like go around and beg everywhere to find a way to get back to ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ooh.
Yeah, well, I also I've enjoyed the process because being in the Viking reenactment environment since I was 11, of course, I came across lots of poetry and old writings in Old Norse, but never really gave it much thought to the pronunciation because I was just reading it. And then meeting Kai and hearing how you make these dead languages come alive with your personality and the way you are performing the pieces with such an intensity has been super inspiring to work with and discover. And I think the best thing you said to me was bring your own Norwegian dialect into the words you're singing. So I come from a small village in Norway called Borre, and yeah, we have a local dialect where we use the very thick L, like when you say instead of blå, you say blå, which is an impossible sound to make for any Danish person I've met.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Chris has been practicing for 15 years.
Say it.
Say it.
Hello. Saliva all over the place.
I've actually taken an exam in that stuff.
Yes, I can imagine. It's so fantastic. And I lived in a street and I met Christopher called Bælafare in Lillehammer.
Imagine being a Dane trying to get a taxi to that place. Bælafare.
I mean, imagine.
I have also something. I think, maybe you want to
just
finish.
one short thing. And that is, of course, we're artists. And like the way we pronounce Old Norse, for example, it's maybe not according to the guidelines of some university. There's more feeling in it than science, I would say. But the problem we just looked at, Norwegian and Danish nowadays is nearly written the same. But the moment they open their mouth, they come from completely different words, right? And I think that was already available, or that problem was already there maybe 1,000 years ago or even longer.
Actually, I'm gonna have to add something to that. No, Kai, I'm sorry, you're wrong. The reason that we speak this weirdly in Denmark is because of you Germans.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I apologize, Germany.
It's all right. It's all right.
I mean, so what would be the excuse? What would be the excuse for all the different accents in the UK? Because we have different accents a stone's throw away, which is wildly different that a lot of people can't understand or tell the difference between when you go to somewhere like Liverpool with a Scouse accent and then I guess up to like Newcastle, which is so wildly different.
You've had a lot of years to like sit there in your your little different villages and come up with new ways of pronouncing.
That's it.
Yeah, you see it in Norway too, right? So like a mountain can do the big difference, right? Until someone drills a tunnel through it, and they all of a sudden figure out there's someone on the other side
speaking completely different.
and the dialect is completely different. So even though Norway and Denmark has roughly the same amount of people living there, because of the distance between the people in Norway, you see like 159 different dialects, and some of them are like completely different languages. And that's super interesting. I would like to just touch base a little bit on another language I think we also are working with here, which is maybe not the written languages as you find on a lot of the sources we're doing. And that is music in general, I think. And I think that is a thing we are working a lot with. But our approach is instead of going from like some found object that's probably been like a tourist gift from somewhere down south that you brought to hang on the wall because you didn't know how to play it. The thing we are more looking into is maybe just the actual sounds of nature and trying to figure out some sort of melody in what appears to be chaos to begin with. And I think that sometimes also goes in and speaks a little bit with how you can hear folk music up to this day. Of course, a lot of the folk music we know here in Scandinavia and specifically Sweden and Norway is more like based from the Renaissance, because that is where we start to see possibilities of writing it down. So we, except of some small things we maybe think is notes from a runestone in Jylland, we really don't know anything. And so therefore we can go into more like the sounds of the words. For instance, like if we have particular sounds that sounds like the animal, for instance. Like the other day I had this idea that I don't know, it's a modern word, it's probably something completely different, but I really like the Danish word for spætte. You know, what is that in English, spætte?
Spatz.
Woodpecker.
But okay, it has this sound, right? When you know, and I kind of like how it's spit, how it kind of feels like the animal, right? And there's other similarities. But what I want to go into is like there must be some point where music and words and singing and all these things melts together with how we mimic nature around us, and you see that in the way instruments are almost the same if you go far enough back in time, like with flutes or bowed or stringed instruments. That the sign of the things, you know, becomes the same basically. Just have different names. Like for instance, the dulcimer or the santur or the hakkebræt is basically the same instrument, but you find them all over the world, right? And I think a big part of how we start to create a lot of the sounds is taking like a completely chaotic sound, like a waterfall or a crackling fire or something that is like atmospheric to the time, and then try to figure out, okay, what would inspire you as a human sitting around this thing, and then, you know, create art out of it.
And it's an important point now that we went into the nerdy side of things to add that Christopher has developed a really, really cool way of extracting the nerve and the DNA of nature sounds in his studio. So that's why it's also really, it is amplified history we're working with, because like the fire cracking in El Dansurin, if people know this song, it starts with a fire and the fire turns into a beat. This beat is not created by us. It is in the fire, but Chris just had the plugins and the means to
the nerdiness.
So
and
nice.
the time.
And the time, yeah.
No, that's awesome. I love how you, especially now I know that you kind of brought that sound from the element itself. I think that's beautiful. That's definitely one thing I noticed listening to your albums today. Just that feeling with nature that you're getting, it's very kind of organic and natural, and yeah, I really enjoy it. It's different to most things I would necessarily listen to. I think obviously there's only a few of you guys around that do music like what you do. So when I'm listening to a more modern rock band, it's very much a modern sound, whereas it's so refreshing and nice to hear that very much natural thing. Even when it comes to the words and Kai shouting in German, it's still very organic and natural and kind of takes you away.
That was the plan.
Yeah, and I think we actually lost 1 star in some Danish review because of the German, but I'm not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure we lost.
You lost a star.
Yeah, because she didn't like to be shouted in German or something.
Imagine, would she have preferred the shouting in English? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe Swedish. I don't know what she would prefer.
No, it's a matter of taste. Like I once declined invitation to a fetish party because the lady wanted me to come and get dressed in an old style German uniform and shout at people and whip them. And that was I couldn't do it. I really couldn't.
Which part of it didn't you want to do?
We can't really dive too deep.
Okay.
I think there's minors listening to it, but I guess I missed an amazing party.
I was not expecting that story to go there. And I mean, as soon as you said fetish party, I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to hold on to my seat and see where this one ends up.
Well, you have actually a good career choice there if we fail miserably with Heilung or something.
Yeah, then I do what was that, a Patreon or something?
OnlyFans.
Yeah, OnlyFans. Yeah.
OnlyFans shouting at people in German.
Yeah, it's
.com.
OnlyFans is Kai with only pants shouting at people.
That's brilliant. So I guess like we talked about earlier, you started out with you three just as friends hanging out, and it's a very organic start to the band, which I think is beautiful. I think that's how the best things in the world are created. How do you get from that to being dressed up on stage the way you do and performing with such vigor? And at what point does it take that leap to the stage performance?
That's a really good question. So I think I'm going to start out.
You go.
This. So what you see that is on us on stage, a lot of it comes from before even Heilung, basically. So some of it, and I think Kai can talk more of his dress. But how it looks, a lot of it is of course amplified, but it was not all of it specifically made for Heilung on stage. Like my dress, for instance, is a reenactor's dress that I've been wearing at Viking events and stuff like that.
His mom made it.
My mom made it, yeah. I'm a horrible, what do you call it?
Seamstress?
Yeah, whatever. Seamstress.
Okay. Yeah.
But what I want to say is we were laughing in the studio because we did like these very long mantra pieces where I cut out all the breathing because we're never going to play that live, so that's not going to be a problem, And all of a sudden we started to feel a quite good pressure on pull from different organizers that wanted us to perform it live, and then who's going to breathe? And it kind of started from there. So it was, we knew a year in advance that we were gonna do this live, and being a person that have produced quite a lot of live shows and different bands and all that, I must say this was the biggest task ever for me. It really like because, for instance, like I talked before about amplifying nature sounds, you don't really bring a waterfall to a stage, right? But you still, of course, you can bring a recording of it, but you also need to kind of portray what is important, that is a natural sound, right? What is the intention of the sound? Where do you want to put people mentally when they hear sound, right? So that goes a lot of thought into how we kind of, put this into people's ears. So like one good example I always like to put over here is the sound of birds. So normally when you go to a concert, you will maybe hear like a Spotify playlist or something like that, and to get people pumped up for the gig or something. Mm-hmm. But what we do is we just have a pretty plain recording of a forest, which is nearby where we made the first album. And you just hear these beautiful birds singing, and that's it, So that's the warm up. And from there, I think we could talk for days about it, but it went a lot of work into to make it as real as humanly possible.
Yeah, and the whole, like you said, we were three friends who created something in the studio, and all of a sudden the task was to get it live. And as Chris very well put it, it was an extreme task because, also, I don't know. I just have this fantastic image in my head coming from the outside into the kitchen in our old practice room. And I see Chris standing with a stick and beating Kai in beat.
This sounds like a fish party again.
and he was screaming in German. You know?
Why was I not invited? I mean, come on. Sounds like a great party.
It's gonna sell, you know.
Yeah, through pain, the beauty shall rise. Yeah, no, it was something, a theory about getting it physical to kind of really, feel the beating, as we then started to say, instead of feel the beat, feel the beating. And that was, I think, Alfa del Haiti, the rap part, as people call it.
That was Krigsskald.
The English part.
The English part of Krigsskald.
Yes.
That was the most challenging.
Yeah. I think that took you like a couple of months, just that little piece.
That was intense.
But now, like with everything, as soon as you trained it, it's really sticks. And some of these songs are just, they just run on repeat. Now also with the new material that we're making, I'm constantly singing in ancient Babylonian texts. And it just, okay, I'm not going to speak more.
Oops.
Go on.
Like the step from the studio to the stage was quite an insane thing to do. I really have to say. Like, I mean, that phase was literally one of the most intense periods in my whole life. Right? That was really intense. From learning, I mean, these guys are pro musicians since quite a while, and I come from the tattoo world originally, and of course I had to train and learn, and I had to submit as well. That was also quite important. And coming from a world where I'm the artist, and everything basically revolves around me when I'm performing tattoo art, right? And then becoming part of a trinity that was different. That felt completely different. And also, like, as a tattoo artist, I'm the one that makes the rhythm. I'm the one that decides when the needle goes in and out and where it goes, and suddenly I'm part of a bigger machinery. That's and then of course, everything. There's a lot of personal spirituality in the music, and that was kept from me. As a German person, having a Nordic spirituality, that can be quite a challenge to live that very, very openly, right? Mm-hmm. And then suddenly everyone wanted to see it. Everything that I was like just quietly mumbling for a very small circle of people in the forest, suddenly there were so many people that just wanted to hear that, and like made a long way to see that. And like, that's beautiful.
I think also it's a good place to start mentioning, that when we do Heilung in the studio, we are this bubble, and of course it's also what ends up amplified on stage. But as we were talking about, no breathing pauses between stuff in the studio, of course that is not possible for real. So therefore, we needed more people, and we had like a good list of people. We thought that this would be perfect to help us, because we have been in other projects involved with all of them somehow, and we knew them very well in the folk music environment, and all of them said yes, which was amazing, and already there, like on the like Lifa that you see on the internet is of course the first Heilung show ever, and it's the first time all of us also are together playing. So a lot of it had to be prepared, on long distance and everything. But what also happened there is like all of a sudden we had this big family, and it like having our own tribe that we can travel around with together, and also after that has grown quite bigger, and with even more lovely people, and of course all the people on stage is only half the story. It's also all the people behind the stage that helps, and they have as much heart in it as everyone else, and it's brilliant people, and like it wouldn't happen without them. And also lastly, like it is really important to even have a stage to stand on, and have some people crazy enough to believe in you, and we knew that, if this has to happen live, we needed a quite big setup, but we have never played live before, right? So the organizers of Castle Fest and also Midgårdsblod were the first two to ask for it, even before we had it, and they just had to trust us that whatever we came with would be okay to be headlining on their festival, and with full on from 0 to 1 million in one day, and them believing in that was also what made Heilung possible, because it would not be possible to take this whole thing and travel the small venues around Germany as you would do with a regular rock band or whatever. There's simply no space on stage. And also the spiritual element of the actual show is so important that we can't just put it and squeeze it in everywhere. It has to be possible to do it in its entirety. It has to be dark. It has to be a certain side of stage so we can put all the things up there and all that. So it was really, really fantastic to very early on get the support of both Castle Fest and Midgårdsblod, and we wouldn't be here without them.
That's wonderful. That's also incredibly fascinating to consider. So first of all, one of the most fascinating things about your performance is that it's a ritual. I mean, I don't think we see a lot of modern rock bands and stuff like that do that kind of stuff. But secondly, also, I mean, I feel like what you often hear is that people go to a studio and record things because they want to be on a stage. Like that, that's sort of like the studio is like the way.
Normally the idea, yes.
Right. Whereas with you guys, it was like, well, we never really thought we were gonna be on the stage.
I seriously didn't believe anyone else than my mom would like it, and actually was time where I was wondering whether she would like it, but I can say that she likes it. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that, and I think she's proud.
I'm sure she would be.
But no, but, we couldn't have anticipated where this would go, because in a way, Ofnir and also everything else we've done afterward is created from our little bubble, and it's very personal to us, and you create your art first and foremost for yourself, I think, and because you want to hear it. So we did not create any of this because we wanted to conquer the world with the new amplified history, whatever, we didn't even know what to call it, and I think the key to all this is just to be true to yourself, and also have your limits. Do you really want to cut down on what you created, or do you just want to play less? And that is what we're doing.
No, absolutely. I think true magic happens when people stay true to themselves and they create things that they want and that they like. And other people, if it's their thing, they're going to like it also. And hopefully there's going to be enough of those people to make it a career for yourself. But as long as you're doing what you love, then it's always going to be pure, rather than trying to tick the box for somebody else and try and make something for somebody else when it's not going to be authentic. And you can always just tell. You can tell when something's not authentic to somebody. Whereas with you guys, you can tell it's very much raw. You love it. It's what you live for. And that comes across on stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I very much agree with that. And this is, it's funny because you're saying this is personal stuff that you guys are creating, right? And the funny thing is that I think we all share a certain experience background here that is part of informing the understanding of this music, and that is, for instance, Viking markets in Denmark. I mean, personally, for me, what I'm hearing and feeling when I listen to Heilung is that I'm being brought back to when I was like 13 or 14 at a Viking market somewhere in Denmark, in like Moskort or something like that, and the fun parties and all the funky things that would happen in such places. So so I know I sort of like. I kind of get what you guys are saying about that personal experience right there.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think we definitely were doing Viking before it was cool, and we definitely feel that. I remember being in ground school. I started this, because my parents did it at the time. So I think I was around 10 or 11 when I went to my first real Viking market, at least, and I remember all my friends. They thought it was so weird that I wanted to dress up as a Viking, and it also probably at that time it wasn't so it was not as hype and pro, so it's basically these old hippies that figured out a new way to make drum circles, and I basically had like this old type bag from the post office around me and a rope around the belly, and it looked like I don't know what it looked like, but it was something, and
I was going to say it looked like something at a fetish party, I guess.
Spanking someone in German in a tent somewhere.
That's it.
I'm sure that has happened at a Viking market before.
Oh, 100%.
It happens all the time.
But I think what's communal for all of us, and I can hear now, Mathias, it also goes for you, that growing up in this kind of environment is super healthy. You meet people from all over the world, and it's definitely sparked the interest for living history and our ancient poetry and everything we do today. And also it's fascinating because when we started building up for the first Heilung performance, we dug up everything we had hidden under the bed. I had like a box that's been traveling with me for 12 years and 12 apartments, and it was just this box of feathers and handmade beads I made when I was 11 at my first Viking market, and stuff that I just had such a big personal value that I just couldn't get rid of, but I had no idea what to use it for. And then we started building up the Heilung performance, and everything came to use. Every single little bead is now in some suit or hanging on a mic stand, or so that's also the beauty of it. It really feels like a piece of the puzzle just slid into place. Same with you, Kai. We were laughing
totally
about it. Yeah, I think I want to hear about
totally that. I mean, when it comes to my dress that I wear on stage, that contains a lot of stuff which has very very personal value for me. For example, like some of the leather straps on there, they're made from the sofa that was standing in the living room when I was born. So that is where I spent a lot of time.
You were born in the sofa?
No, not in the sofa.
I made on the sofa.
Yeah, that I don't know. Okay, we're back to it. Yeah.
No, sorry.
Never mind. And there's also like human hair woven in, and also stuff that is even older, like a piece of a Bronze Age sword, for example, and all that kind of stuff, that has personal value, but also general artifact value, like weird bones and everything, and that really also does something to me, like I know someone wrote a dissertation about what happens when people get into a uniform or Viking dress, or like a general go into another personality, and that coat is really, the moment I put it on, it does something to me.
Do you think you feel like the energies from all these different items that you've got up there on stage? By the sounds of it, it sounds like a lot of them are very personal to you guys. You must get like a sense of just the energy from everything around you when you're on the stage and doing this huge performance.
Yeah, totally. like all the art items and artifacts, they're put on the code very conscious, you know, like there's also things that are not Viking at all that you don't really see. There's, for example, a Buddha hidden in it that came to me, and it's in the heart area and all that kind of stuff, you know. While other parts are more in the root or feet area or whatever, you know. So everything is like thought through and meditated about and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's nice, Kai. It looks great.
Yeah, of course the looks as well, but you know, when you go back to, like, you know, all these dresses of spiritual people, not to say shamans whatsoever. There's also, that is the kind of stuff you dig up from the earth, you know. Like, I mean, you know, when you open up grave mounds, sometimes there's women in there, they have everything on them, you know, starting from drugs over to weird animal parts, you know. They have deformations and everything. It's all weirdness, you know. And of course, if you look at me, or, you know, if you look at the code is like, let's say 90% fabric, right? So all that will be gone if you put me in a grave with that will all be gone. And suddenly you will find a skeleton with a couple of amulets that really doesn't make any sense. You know, it will be a male skeleton that has like female buckles on it, you know, and that grave will have a huge file with like unknown ritual object 1, 2, 3B, blah blah, you know. And when I see the drawings of graves like that, you know, that is I eat them up and I look through it, and you know, I'm so grateful for the modern archaeology, because like when you look at older, you know, when people were digging in the 1800s, you find a list of the metal objects that were in the grave, you know, and then they write like a short footnote. It contained rests of textiles that they threw out or whatever that just disappeared on the air. But nowadays, you know, you have these like beautiful little maps of the finding place where every position is marked in height and everything. And it's just, there's so much information that we're able to gather these days. It's just amazing. And that is for me, you know, I like the super high spiritual value that we have in absolutely dry scientific publications, right? Because they don't give you any conclusions. Yes, that is a shaman that is laying there, but they give you all this, that was laying there, that was laying here, it was placed like this, you know, it was male skeleton, female skeleton, whatever, you know. And then you can do the homework yourself, you know. Like I find it, for example, absolutely fascinating that we have all this fuss around the horse in the Viking Age, right? Up to horse burials on the Faroe Islands. What the fuck? I mean, you're burying a horse, eat it for fuck's sake, you know? Why do you do that as pagans? And but then, you know, when you look at like Scythian graves, they also have this like horse thing going on. There's like, I see a lot of similarities in the art and everything. And that's, you know, that is really, that still puzzles me to this very day, you know, that still inspires me, makes me think, gives me sleepless nights. You know?
it must just be, I imagine, a respect thing when it comes to the horse. Because I imagine a horse would make your life so much easier, especially when it comes to farming and agriculture. So I guess when he died, you must have a connection, and it's just a respect, not like... I wouldn't eat my dog, I guess, and I wonder if it's that same...
Oh, that's such a British thing to say, man.
Yeah, really.
Unless you eat a horse.
What's wrong with eating your dog, man?
I mean, I might eat somebody else's dog, but I don't want to eat my dog.
Trade with your neighbor. You eat Mathias's dog?
I don't know, maybe.
I need my dog. So if we were in a situation... Yeah,
no. I mean, if we were in a situation where I had to eat my dog, then the dog's getting eaten. Let's be true. But I mean, like, if the dog died naturally and I didn't need to eat it, I would prefer to bury it because I respect and I've loved him, and he's my dog, man.
I hope you don't have a Chihuahua.
Oh no, that's not going to fill me up.
Chihuahua on a stick.
It's like on a spear, you know.
So, Maria, one thing we have to speak about whilst we're talking about the costumes is obviously your headdress, which is, I guess, becomes so iconic to the band, and also just like, I guess, your face in general has also become a big part of like the covers and promotional material. I've seen your face tattooed on people now as well. That must be extremely surreal.
Yeah, it is. It is actually quite surreal. There's one who maybe he's listening, but there's one who has my face on his right hand, so like on the palm. So every time he greets someone, actually my face is there. You know, it's
Wow.
it's hard to think of, but at the same time, I totally distancing myself from the symbol that we have been creating, and I don't see it per se as me. Of course it's me, but it's a different side of me, or it's it's more of a symbol. And I love how everything came together with that whole look, because it was just fragments of ideas, and I just knew that I wanted to be white light and like a contrast to Kai's darkness. And also that I would like a Norwegian reindeer antler on my head. I had no idea how to mount it or anything, but we just were diving into it. And I found that antler in such a weird place also. So it's just everything just came together. And no one knew how anyone would look before the first day on production practice at Kotun, where I used to work as a booker at that time. It's a small venue in Copenhagen, and we were standing there, and in the backstage preparing. We had just invited like 15 families and friends to see it before we went to Castlefest for the big first show. And standing there, everyone taking their regalia on. I tried my makeup for the first time with the stripes and everything, and everything just looked so real. Right? It was just like meant to be, and we haven't changed a thing. Or Kai has changed.
It evolves.
It evolves. Yeah.
I think
it's such a striking thing. I think your headdress as well. It's not like many things that you ever see or that I've seen before, especially with like the top half of your head covered. It's you definitely take notice.
I think there's something with the fact that the audience can't see our eyes, but we can see theirs. There's something there. There's also a little bit of safety there. I would say
Totally.
that you even I don't have the fringes, but painted black and standing without any light on, so I'm also kind of gone. But I think. In a way, it is very recognizable, but I think what is most important is all of it is personal, right? It is still this thing that you carry with you, from before and amplify into something else.
Especially that part, the headdress is for sure something really relevant. A lot of people don't believe that it has actual reference to our place where we come from, our history. But there is one saga. I do not remember which one, but I know that it is in one of Mr. Price's publications, and there is a passage where the vulva asks her helper to bring the hood or hat or something like that with the straps that she would need to do scythe. And of course, this when you search for cross-reference in different cultures, you will see starting from Siberia all the way to the Amazon, you will see people who are working spiritually who have these straps covering their eyes and like taking away half of their sight, which is a key to many things, And when you ask these people as well, why do you do this? They will give you different answers. One of them I loved. I heard from a Siberian shaman, and he said that he wears it because it protects the evil spirits from entering through his eyes. And we have that kind of stuff, that like the thought that spirits enter through your body openings of all kinds. We're pretty sure that the Vikings had that as well, right? And in addition, like the antlers that people wear on the head, like when you go to Siberia, for example, you see them made of metal very often. But we have findings from the Stone Age. I do not remember how old she really is, but it is the lady from Nuremberg, Germany. She was buried I think it's a very early Stone Age, and she was buried with an antler headdress, and she had most probably a baby with her, and her grave was filled completely with ochre instead of earth. So she must have been a very special person. She had a deformation in the back of her neck that most probably made her fell unconscious whenever she started to do this. And then we have, I think, from Scotland, I don't remember the name now, there's also antler headdresses from real antlers, so there's not really artificial made antlers, but people here in Europe had for sure regular antlers on their head, as far as we can be sure.
There's of course also the Gunnestrup cauldron, right? This is a good example of. It might have been made either in the Balkans, or it's like either in the Balkans or somewhere in France. But I mean, it ended up in a bog in Denmark. So I mean, those images must have been important also to the people who put it there.
Must have been an amazing gift to the
right.
I mean, kilos of silver.
I mean, wow. There you go, and we fill it with red wine or something. Or heads, with red wine. And I think like one of the things that really fascinated me early on doing living history and reenactment was to go to these Viking villages or Iron Age. Recreated Iron Age villages and try out stuff, right? So there's this theory that this object might be a religious artifact, or it can be a door handle, and then you figure out what is it, and test it out. And is it really true that there was no accessible sunlight inside, or whenever you hit your head into the wall, you figure out, maybe that had some sort of solution, right? and all these things. And what I'm getting at here is the idea of course, we are talking about extremely limited sources for these things, and specifically also when you move into the territory of music, like no drums, for instance, and all that. But that we kind of have to borrow also a little bit, right, from different places. So it would be weird if it was the only place on Earth, I guess, without any tribal drumming.
That's such a good point.
So we have to make assumptions, and I think within that is also where art lies, right? We have like a gray area where we can imagine and be creative, and also I think it's really important that we're not trying to be a complete it's not like a perfect museum representation of anything, because you wouldn't see an amplifier then or something, right? So of course we're trying to put people's minds and mood to a certain area, and not mingle with the scientific discussion on all matters.
So one thing I would say that's sort of like the undercurrent of what you're saying here is this idea of authenticity too.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, we know that from the Viking scene, that's like a big discussion, like, is this authentically Viking and blah, 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 blah. And, sometimes you can get really tired about those discussions. And I have to say, as somebody who deals with the authentic side of things, at least to an extent, that's my job, right? Authentic history as a scholar. I don't like at this point. I'm so sick of like this whole like talk about, it has to be so and so authentic and so on. Like this idea that you can't fill in gaps to create awesomeness.
Yeah.
Of course you can. And of course you should, right? And like, thinking about the drums, like drums that they don't last that long in graves. Usually they can pretty easily disappear in archaeology, right? And I think you're totally right, Christopher, when you say that, like, well, it would be weird if that was the only corner of the planet where you didn't have drums, because that is the case, right?
Yeah,
So,
and also the general fascination for music, and also like you see all these objects people bring home from places where we definitely found drums, right? Okay, maybe the lyre or whatever survived because it was very beautiful, ornamented, and it looked good on the wall. Definitely, probably didn't sound very well, but it was looking good on the wall. And maybe that survived longer for that reason. I don't know. But we've also found these leather pieces that probably from a bagpipe or somewhere in Sweden, I believe. But I mean, you know, of course they were able to create instruments. We can even argue that maybe some drawings, you know, or petroglyphs or whatever, maybe could be drums. There's many things. But I think my main point here is more into the idea of connecting a larger picture here and put that into your art. So one element we have on stage is, for instance, an Indian rabanhata, which is basically just a tube with one string on that sounds horrific in the cool way.
Not if you know how to play it.
Yeah, if you play it really well, that one note. But
I don't claim to be an expert on it. The people in India.
No, but the very idea to have something very primitive, like one string, one stick, you know, one small whatever resonator. You find that everywhere on Earth and in all time periods and everything, and that idea of creating sounds that can mimic nature again, you know, that is basically, it sounds like a little weird animal, this thing, right? And you also see it in Tuvan music, how they mimic the sound of a horse very often on their boat instruments and all that. You know, the very idea that we mimic our surroundings, I believe, is true for any tribal society on Earth, and we come from that one place, all of us, and therefore I find it completely fine. I don't feel it as appropriation of any kind. I actually feel it more like a connecting point for everything.
And that is a very, very important thing that Chris said there, the connection point. Because like I'm not really a lot in the internet, but I feel and hear very often that there's discussions going on about like Viking Age and drums, yes or no, and I'm always very surprised because there's a very, very clear finding about it that in my world answers all the questions, you know, and that is a connection point. That is a Sami drumstick, or at least, you know, in Sami fashion, right, but it has clearly like a very late Viking style carvings on it, you know, so that means someone must have been rooted in two cultures, or at least, you know it. Maybe it was, you know, that daddy was a Sami and mama was a Viking, whatever, you know. But we can clearly see that is, in my world, you know, I'm not a scientist, I'm an artist, you know, but in my world, that is a proof, you know, that someone that had a clue enough from the Viking culture, you know, or like from the Norse culture at the time, to carve this thing, you know, and hit the drum, you know. So because that is the only reason why these things exist. That is a drumstick, you know. It's very clear, and there's also that brings us also to the appropriation thing. What are we doing now? You know, suddenly there's an artifact that carries the two cultures in it. You know, so who owns it? You know, who can say this is my ornament? You know, who can say this is my shape of drumstick? You know. So
and does it matter?
Yeah, that's what I'm leading to here. You know, I think it is really the point that we say, hey, come on, let's sit together. Let's focus on what we share, not on what separates us. You know,
exactly. That's a beautiful point.
Yeah. No, I mean,
one thing we need to remember more often.
Yeah. I agree, and this is a big discussion, and there are certain positions that you can understand. Maybe we're seeing people who are being marginalized and oppressed in different ways, right?
Yep.
And you know, to necessarily use items or music or singing or other cultural items that associate with those peoples doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking something away from them. it can also be a negotiation and interaction with them. For instance, here in the US, we have an ongoing discussion about whether or not people who are sort of like into new pagan stuff and witchiness and all that stuff, if they're white, that if they can then use sage as something to burn in rituals, because there are Native Americans who have long-standing traditions using that. It's an ongoing discussion, and I it grows in my backyard. And I have been told by some people that, no, you can't go pick it because it's reserved for other people. And I'm like, that's an interesting way to look at this.
Very, because it's a plant, and who can claim ownership over a plant, which is also, of course, a bigger discussion with marijuana, right? Like,
and the thing is also, like, so the fear is that someone like me, some white dude from Northern Europe, would be appropriating a ritual, and that's nothing that I would ever do, because I have my own culture, my own. So, and I would say that, using white sage from my own backyard, that's a way for me to connect with the land and nature around me. There are so many different, levels in these conversations. And I think it's important to be open to what people have to say in a reasonable way.
Yeah, I think the whole thing here is perspective, right? So like one of the I'm not going to name it by name, but one of the recreations of Viking villages I've been working in recently got an upgrade. They call it for new houses, and what they did is the local government made it law that they installed modern lighting inside the houses because it was too dark and therefore dangerous for the tourists. So it has to be electrified inside, which I find really funny, because I kind of looks at the point of maybe they had a window, I don't know, but
good point.
But my point is perspective here, right? Because you can be so focused into one little thing that you completely lose the grasp of how big one thing can be and how connecting it can be at the same time. That's why, for instance, very often, I like you. I also really like to dive deep into my own history and see where did I come from? How did I end up like this? But that is not to make me necessarily different or worth more than others, or my culture is so much more important than others. No, actually, I think the further we dig back in time, we actually figure out how alike we are everywhere. And
absolutely.
And I think that is, to go completely inwards and really look into the earth you're standing on. The further in you go, the more open you become, to other people.
Absolutely. I think it's insane when people have that. They're kind of like, this is my culture. I'm only going to learn this and not learn anything else. It boggles my mind, because there's so many wonderful things in the world. Why wouldn't you want to go out there and learn them and see them and appreciate them? It's like, England has some beautiful places in it, but I still want to go out and see the rest of the world and appreciate it. I don't want to only ever go on holiday in England.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you want to be like that? But unfortunately, I guess some people are.
And I think also it's important to bear in mind that we are living in modern times where new cultures are being created. I mean, the US is a great example. There's so many cultures there who comes from all over the world, and they're creating something new. And instead of trying to haunt like those 2% that comes from some Viking in Norway, try to see, okay, who am I today, and what makes me feel alive? What makes my blood boil? Do I like the sound of this drum? Well, great. It's probably because I like the sound of this drum, not because I'm Viking ancestors. It's because
5% of DNA from something.
Yeah.
I have 3% Irish in me. I just found on Ancestry.com, and so I'm like totally down with St. Patrick's Day and all that stuff now.
Kai, I wanted to pull it back to something you said before, which I found really interesting. How you said how you're the artist and not the scientist. And I think artists sometimes get maybe pushed to the side or kind of not listened to sometimes. Whereas I create drinking horns for a living. I carve drinking horns, and I think that you, as an artist, you get a different perspective to things and understanding things that maybe somebody who just studies it out of a textbook doesn't get. And I think it's so important to listen to people like what you guys are doing with music and going back to the roots. You learn so much more through doing and acting and feeling than you can learn from any artifacts, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I've seen a lot of things that I found quite interesting. For example, there was once a language scientist, and he was talking about the languages being used, and but although he was a scientist in these things, whenever it came to an actual Proto-Germanic word, or however you want to call it, I don't know, he didn't say the word, he didn't dare to actually speak that language, right? And I think especially for us when we go and search for rhythms and everything, the moment we speak it, we hear that there is a rhythm inside of it. And when you only study it theoretically, of course, you see a lot of patterns and everything, and you can say a lot of things about it that we never could, But the actual feeling of it, the vibration of it, when you really repeat that pattern all the time, that is something that is really a great gift. I consider it a great gift as well.
Absolutely. And that actually brings me on to a point that I want to bring to Mathias, and I'm glad you guys are here because we could be making history, because I feel like I'm about to change the history we know of Vikings. Wow. It's a big claim. So one thing I was thinking when I was in the workshop, I kind of touched it to you before, but I want to ask you about it properly. That was when I'm carving horn, for some reason I always use Younger Futhark, and I guess in one degree it's because it's the more accurate, because it was used in the Viking Age. But I even when people request me to do anything in the Elder, I always dislike it. And I got thinking as to why that was. And I quickly realized that when I was carving in the horn, there's a lot of runes in the Elder Futhark that have small little pieces that would be common to chipping off. So things like the D or the M, I think it's the E maybe, it has little pieces that always used to fall out, and I'd have to struggle to maybe try glue them back in. Whereas with the Younger, those pieces just don't seem to exist. Even though you get some curved runes, these little isolated bits that could fall off just aren't there. And I wondered if there's anything to that as to why we saw that shift from, because obviously it wasn't written down on paper.
I think that is a good question for Mathias.
Yes.
I told you were going to you may witness history.
So I want to start this long speech by first saying,
we haven't had one yet, so
by first saying the lived experience of and this goes for carving a horn, putting runes in it, and for singing the languages and so on, is actually an incredibly important piece of a puzzle of knowledge about the past in general, that a lot of scholars have hitherto ignored in different ways or toned down, and some are becoming a little more savvy to it nowadays. But we could still, we could go pretty far still with really trying to understand what life was like back in some past. It doesn't have to be the Viking Age. It could be the Stone Age for that matter. In all those little minutiae that we wouldn't really think about, right? And this has something to do with the way that we think about history in general. History, the way that if you just in primary school, the way that it's taught to you is these broad lines of there was a king over here, and then there was a battle over there, and that's pretty much it, right? It's that's not really everyday stuff that people have feelings with and interactions with and so on. So when somebody goes and does something like what you do, Dan, by trying to carve horns, or when they go and turn this dead language into music and sound like you guys are doing in Heilung, we are slowly getting closer to a better understanding, even if it's not authentic, even if you are using a Dremel tool, even if you have an amplifier and a recorded sounds and so on and all that stuff. We still have the possibility, if nothing else, to actually understand aspects of that past. And like one thing, for instance, when it comes to we've talked about this already a little bit, like how do you pronounce these words properly, or what does it have to sound like, right? When it comes to Old Norse, as it is called, which is the language that existed from 1100 to 1500, has nothing to do with the Viking Age. Some people think so, though. In the North Atlantic, in Iceland, the Faroe Islands, Shetland, Orkney, parts of the Hebrides, and of course Norway, that language, right? There are two theories. There's the Norwegian theory and the Icelandic theory. Or the Icelandic theory is not a theory as much as it's just like, we're going to pronounce it in Icelandic. And then you have the Norwegian theory, which is we try to reconstruct based off of, I think it's the first grammatical treatise that was written in 1100 and something. And then you have some dude who's like, oh, well, I am only going to pronounce it in this way. And that's supposed to be some kind of special. Like, come on. We're living in a modern time. Let's try to use these. If we're using the language in a modern context, let's use our modern ways of speaking. Right. That's why I think it's so awesome, Maria, when you're singing in your Norwegian dialect, when you're using that to pronounce these words. I think that's fucking great. Like make the history live again.
Yeah, right. And it feels very much alive and very connected to myself when we do it that way. And I think that must be the best way of living history. And it's also important also to note that we are not at all working with Viking Age as a theme, although it's very, very tempting for anyone who talks about us to say that we play Viking music because it's kind of this shelf where you can put us comfortably for everyone
we only
else.
play on nuns and monks and whatever, as slapping nun asses. That is our instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone maybe 40
artwork
minutes.
is tapestry from France or something. I don't know, but yeah.
And I think 40 minutes without like a fetish reference then. You brought it back
back to it.
Just what I want to say, like Mathias, I'm completely following you there. And I think in order to convey like this thing that, I had one feeling like on the first we had our first tour obviously in the US, and it was so amazing to see people in the audience stand and recitate the lyrics from the Ekja Stone, right, with us. I mean, you can approach this subject in two ways, right? You can either go out with a book or something and say, "Come on, everyone, sing along," or you can hope that you have an impact with it in other ways that make people want to learn, and I don't know exactly how they probably have been pronouncing this language, right? That is written on that particular stone. And I think no one can claim that. We can have many theories and whatever, but how does it feel? That for me is the most important part of it. And I just want to put a short story in here that I really find valuable, because I think everyone can claim this feeling that I'm talking about, to their own, right? And I remember one time, I was not very old, when we were doing like a ritual, and probably if you took a picture of that, it's in the 90s, people that was dressing up as Vikings at that time would be very different from how they dress up today, because there's even like a fashion within that, I guess, through the years, that even with the haircuts and everything that you see in Vikings, no one had these cool haircuts in the 90s, that's for sure. But anyway, no one dared to have tattoos in the faces also, but whatever, at least from what I saw. But what I mean is we were doing this blow type thing, probably very unauthentic, but it felt right at the time. And we had the local mayor that was participating in this ritual, and he was very nervous. So when the time for him to raise the horn and heal some of the gods or whatever, his voice came out very squeaky, and this was in
in Mosgard in Denmark. And as he raised the horn and very like nervously shouted Odin, Thor, like a giant lightning, entered from the sky into the sea,
Oh wow!
It's like
nice.
Thor, and he completely like he stayed for the party and he drank all night and had talked about this epiphany feeling he got, all day, and like he really saw the gods that day, right? And I think that feeling, it may be a little bit extreme to bring that for a show every time. I guess you could do that with a Tesla thingy or whatever. but I mean, my point is that you can make this feeling your own, right? And you can try and make the best out of it. And I think also it's good to have different eyes on one subject anyway. And if whatever I do can inspire, someone like you that knows a lot more than me on things to do something else, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And that is how everything should be connected, I think.
Agree.
Absolutely. I think everybody should be willing to come together and have a conversation and figure things out. I always wonder how much more could we know if everybody's willing to share what they know with others and just speak about it and figure out, because so many people do their little bit of work and put their blinkers on and look one way and it's their way and that's it, when there's so many other interesting ideas going on. If everybody just came together, and I feel like we could learn so much more.
I totally agree. I really totally agree. And I think also that, or I have the very strong feeling that at the moment, I mean, like, that's very easy to see. We are in a process of change. And I heard someone saying the other day that I really, really like, that the fairy tales of the future are not about kings that change the world and save the world. It will be about groups of people changing the world, And I have that feeling so strong, that it's really important, to go to come together and do this thing that the ants are doing, when they're pressing their mandibles together. They have this complete exchange of everything that is in the brain of the other person. And I mean, look at their culture, right? The ants are amazing. What they're doing, they're the true rulers of the world. That is what I'm convinced of, right? And I think for us people, for mankind, that will be more and more important in the future. That there's not the old battle from the top of the pyramid against the base of the pyramid, but that we all say we are the pyramid. And that is why I say, let's come together. Let's look at what unites us, not what separates us. And I come from the 90s. I come from, I have a completely different spirituality, a spirituality that was, so that we received, especially at that time, so many gifts, from people that came from America, that came from Siberia, that came from South America, and they were openly giving their secrets away, teaching us white people, their old ways, and be very, very friendly, very open, very healing, and I learned a lot of things, for example, when you go around in Scandinavia, you will find very often a thing that we call the sun cross or the ring cross, right? So I knew that as a child already. We have that here where I come from. So very quick, I learned, okay, that is also available in America, but they still know what it means, So the moment I was over there and I had the chance, I walked up to someone and I said, "Hey, that cross, what does that mean? The cross in the ring." And of course, they have it very often in these 4 beautiful colors, right? The black, white, red, and yellow. And he said to me, "Yeah, that's very easy. It might be in your culture a sun cross. In our culture, it's an earth cross, and it symbolizes the 4 color of the people, and that they need to work together: the black people, the yellow people, the white people, and the red people." That was what he said, and I love that. I really love that, and that I carry that in my heart since then. I was in the beginning of my 20s when I heard that, and that was a really, really great gift, that I got with these couple of words, and also the contrary meaning of it was very interesting, for example, on my hands you will see things that for people from Greenland, they will see a whale tail in it, while it is also at the same time a rune for fire, So that is again, we share it. We share that treasure. We share that treasure of symbolism, and it means something different, maybe. But it is in the same symbol, and that is why, in my opinion, it is really necessary for us to come together, look at the different facets of things, and make it worthwhile being here.
Absolutely. On this I think there's so much that transcends culture. I remember it was like one of those Facebook friends that you pick up over time that you kind of know but you don't really know, and he posted some traditional sort of Haitian artwork, and it was so reminiscent and striking of Icelandic staves and kind of the line work and the way that it was, the composition of it and the way it was made up. And I couldn't help but message him and said, and send him some pictures, and you could see, whilst they were clearly different, there was such a similarity between the two as well, that it was kind of, made you want to learn more and maybe try and understand as to how it came about, that they were from so far away, but also so similar.
And that brings us back to the question that you raised, Dan. So why did somebody possibly in the Danish area in the 700 be like, well, let's get rid of 8 letters in our writing system? That's what happened.
It's been so difficult to ruin my horn, man.
And then some English guys walked out of the room and said, no, we're making more signs instead of less.
Exactly.
I thought you weren't answering because you didn't want to embarrass me.
No.
Like, he's wrong. I'll tell him off air.
And that's another thing with those English guys, because like when it goes to so-called English futhork, right? You know what? The most versions of it exist in German manuscripts. So I'm like, why do you call it English, guys?
Yeah, well,
like it's mostly in German manuscripts. Anyway, so okay. So what we know about like the historical situation is that at some point during the 700s, it possibly in like the Danish area, it's basically like, let's get rid of these 8 letters and then just start using 16 letters instead. And what we can see is on like in the inscriptions is that it actually becomes harder to actually write in sort of the language, and we see cases where there's very obviously like some spelling errors that are being produced because of this as well. So there's something going on here. Aside from getting rid of these 8 letters, they also decide that we're going to, when we have 2 consonants together, like MK or ML or something like that, we're just going to write one of them.
Yeah.
Because why the fuck not? So that means that, for instance, sometimes there's just an M, and this, when you're trying to decipher that, you have to like guess. That's what happens. Sometimes it's easy. Like Harold Bluetooth's Runestone and Yelling is so easy to read, but others can get like really, really hairy. And a lot of the reason for that is of course that they got rid of those letters. But so Daniel, what you're proposing is that they got rid of those letters because basically what we see is that, especially with horn and wood, when you carve an M in the old
things that chip, like where you get past the chip out.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like in that triangular shape, in the middle of that will fall off, right?
That's it, because you're isolating that from the rest. Whereas with, other than I think maybe like the B with Younger Slovak, other than that, everything else keeps its integrity with the rest of the piece. Whereas with the others, you get those little triangular pieces that fucking fall out and are a pain.
So a couple of things that we can see historically happening in this period are also the fact that rune stones become more popular. Like so the first phase of rune stones is called the Danish phase. That's up until the year 1000, like so through the Viking Age until the year 1000, and then after that it's called the Swedish phase. and that's where we see all these awesome Swedish rune stones. So many of them are actually Christian, and it looks like the idea of putting up these monuments, or not the idea of putting up the monuments, because we have rune stones from before, increased interaction across the Channel and the North Sea to the British Isles. But the idea that this is something cool to do, that we should all be doing in Scandinavia, this idea that putting up these rune stones, it looks like that actually comes from influence from the British Isles. Like monumentalism in the British Isles is what inspires Scandinavians to start putting up these stones everywhere. And we see we can sort of deduce a pattern that is like, it starts with like kings and magnates, and then slowly what you start seeing through the Viking Age and onwards is that, the sort of quote unquote middle class start doing it too, right? You have freed slaves who are doing it. You have all kinds of people all of a sudden doing it. And this is the same type of development that we also see with like grave monuments. Go to Lindholm Høje in northern Denmark, the largest Viking burial site in the world, and you'll see what is basically like middle class stone ship settings, right? So they're basically starting to like copy. They have enough money that they can copy what the big dogs were doing a couple of centuries earlier, that kind of stuff. So what all this boils down to when it comes to like carving runes is that you probably have to carve runes faster, right? And so that could be a support for your theory here, because
all I'm hearing is I'm right. That's literally all I'm hearing.
No, think about it, right? You have a situation where more and more people are using runes. More and more people have access to runes. When we get into the 1200s and 1300s, what it looks like in a place like Bergen in Norway is that everybody knows runes, right? All those little carvings, like you bring home milk, you're a dick, those kinds of things that they write in runes, right? And I'm pretty sure somebody did actually write "you're a dick." Like even worse, yeah. So there's an explosion, right? And it makes sense to consider that yeah, they might actually simplify the letters, as well as get rid of some that are considered whatever, kind of like B or T, who cares, that kind of stuff. And then simply for the purpose of making it easier and quicker to carve a rune stone and to carve something in wood without it chipping and it becoming difficult to see whether or not it's a B or a F or a K or a J or whatever. Like, so yeah, I actually think that it is a plausible theory that
I just want to say that I heard this theory before from my own father, because he
someone got there before me. No,
my father is both like an acting goalie within Danish beliefs of the old gods and all that, but he's also a stone carver, and he did some rune stones in the Borough Park from where Maria is from, and he also said that the fact that becomes less runes is also the words get shorter. And imagine this situation like you having, where you just made the perfect runic thing in horn, and then the last letter, or rune, sorry, it falls off. Imagine now that this is a stone that you cannot carry. That sucks, really.
You can't stick it back on as well.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, I need a new one, and can you carry it for me? So I think definitely there's something there. Even though I also must see that like for these Swedish rune stones, like there's also like these amazing pictures of ships on them, and I mean, they cannot have been easy to make. I mean, it's a bit different than the graffiti, for instance, you see from Rome and all that.
Scratching.
But anyway, I just want to say that I heard that one, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, you even see it in the Danish language. You have all these people now, saying that it sounds like speaking with a hot potato in your throat or something. And I guess it's because at some point we just figured out we don't want to pronounce anything of the things we're writing. So it's just becomes like or whatever, which means refrigerator. No, just kidding. But anyway, I think boredom or something, laziness is a good way, you see things evolving, right?
That's definitely laziness, but also perhaps convenience. It's funny to consider that maybe the purpose of the evolution of the Futhark back in Denmark in the 700s was to make it easier, right, to use it. In the same way now we're seeing the Danish language it's just becoming incomprehensible because we tried to make it easier to use it. It's like fuck.
I think some things never change, and that's when we think about whether it's us now or Vikings 1,000 years ago, we're still all humans and we still do very similar things, and if we can make it easier, we're gonna make it easier. And where my accent, we cut out so many letters. Like I don't pronounce my H most of the time.
Mm-hmm. And we don't even understand when you say H. We don't understand that that's an H.
H. That's it. It's a H. I feel so weird pronouncing it like a H.
Daniel, are you really, really sick of people saying that you come from wildling territory?
Oh no, no, not too much. I don't mind. I quite like the wildlings, but you do kind of get the nothing Jon Snow.
Oh,
like yeah. That's very much the accent. That's how we were always kind of set up in the north. It's always kind of like the very not the simple, but the very much like ordinary folk. That's how we're always kind of portraying everything. And it's usually by Sean Bean.
But that's weird, huh? How modern popular culture can kind of just take a whole dialect and just claim it for its fantasy.
Absolutely. But to be fair, there is some truth behind it as well. Like around these parts, it's very much a working class area. There's a lot of mills. It's very much a kind of thriving, or was at least like a thriving heart when it comes to that working class and very much ordinary people. And we're all known for being tight. They like to share things or share money or that kind of stuff. So there is some truth behind it.
So no tipping up there, huh?
We don't tip in England anyway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's a very weird thing.
It is. It's a eating out tax in America.
Mm-hmm.
You just know you pay 20% extra.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think is tipping a thing in Europe. I'm not.
Yeah, it is.
Tourist places.
I mean, I if somebody's gone above and beyond, I will tip. But I know obviously in America, my sister lives in Canada, and so when I went out to see her, my sister's always like, "Look, if you're going to come back here, leave a good tip because they will remember you, and you will get shitty service if you do not."
They will spit in your burger, my friend.
So I'm like, they do. So you got to look after people. But I think equally, hopefully, I feel like we maybe pay them a little bit more over here so they don't necessarily rely on tips.
Maria, you were saying where do they tip in Europe nowadays?
Well, in Denmark, I worked as a bartender for many years, so both in Norway and in Denmark. And in Norway, it's very customary to tip at least 10%. And in Denmark, at Vega, for instance, which is one of the biggest venues in Copenhagen, not really at all, because also the prices were super stiff. But then in a smaller restaurant, yes, you would expect it. So
but it's not the same. I would think different. In general, the fee is also higher here, so it's kind of included a lot of times. You also see that at other places in Europe where the service is included, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was like for like tourist places. That's where you tip usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes in restaurants they'll have it like on the bottom of the receipt. It'll say 10% service charges included, and they just put it on the bill already, so you can't get out of it.
Yeah.
I just like how we went from Game of Thrones in the north to tipping.
Yeah, that's
I love it. I love it. I really love it. But I really like, but I just wanted to say a little bit of the language thing. It's just that, it must be really difficult to do these movies with because it can either be super cringing or super funny at the same time. Like these two different Viking shows that came out of around the same time. You had the Norwegian comic version of it. Yeah, and then you have the Viking History Channel thing, and in the Viking history, they all talk like this. Even in the south of Germany, Denmark, they talk like this, right? And then you have the Norwegians, in the other one.
Where you speak
a little bit more like,
with a very, very broad Norwegian accent. And
that's it. When Christopher and Maria, when you both start talking, it reminded me of Norseman. The program.
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. But guess which one we think is cringing, right? Because
Vikings the TV show, of course.
because first of all, you wouldn't expect mountains in Denmark at all. In Kattegat or whatever. No, that's supposed to know it. But when they go to Hedeby, it is mountainy and whatever.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
But also, I would really have loved them to sound really Danish, because the thing about being Danish today is probably very different at the time. I wouldn't know, but one thing, as you can probably hear when I'm speaking, is it's impossible to hide that you're Danish, right? When you're speaking, and I think that would be the same at that time, no matter how hard you try. I think it's how you see in popular culture how things are shaped to be cool of the time, how it changes, even the way they speak, how they act, how mystic they are, and whatever. It's all kind of fashion in a way.
I must say, as a Dane, I'm just butthurt that it's always about Norway. So
yeah, me too. Me too.
The most powerful Viking country ever doesn't get mentioned because it's too flat and too boring.
Yeah, it's flat and it's boring. It was like the fucking powerhouse of the Viking Age, but it was way too boring to actually talk about.
No one could understand what you were saying anyways.
Yeah, that's true,
it must be because of the dialect. They will never be able to do it.
I must say one thing about the Danish language, though. Actually, most of the weirdness that has happened to that language has happened over the last 100 years. Just recordings from the 50s, and they're much easier to understand. Like, we fucked up, guys. Like, we seriously fucked up over the last
I would say that it's
years.
our parents, but sure, because when you hear recordings of our parents, they sound completely different than they do today.
That is true.
They talte lidt mere like this in the beginning, and now it's but I mean, I think that one of the first recordings I've been very interested in, that they have like these recordings from the beginning of the 1900s in Denmark, and they have a particular one recording of a farmer girl that is singing like a song there, and what is really interesting about it, I think it's some Australian guy and an American or something that's traveling around Denmark capturing these recordings it's on a record called Visa på Valser, which is like these old Edison roll things they
wax rolls.
And basically it's like the recording technique is you use the same thing as you would for the speaker, so you're basically just screaming into a thing to make it loud enough. But anyway, you can hear how they sing on the consonants, and that is so interesting, because we the idea of putting rhythms on consonants is a very Scandinavian thing in how we create folk music and how we find even the rhymes in poetry and all that, right? And not on the vowels as much as you see in other languages. And what I want to say about it is at that time, when we didn't have recorded media as much before, because it's the first time they did it in the country, the only way to preserve songs would be by tradition, by singing it, for your offspring and whatever. And therefore, many of these releases recorded, in the early 1900s is probably all the way back to the medieval times. Mm-hmm. And there we have a unique possibility and glimpse into how we maybe spoke, I guess. I wouldn't know, but I'm not a scientist. But it feels a lot more singing. That is like Danish has becoming this like you hear also in Dutch, I guess, this very flat and monotone language, and you don't hear many variation in intonation when we are speaking, and that even goes into how we are making music these days. But that's another story. But anyway, at that time you see a lot of singing similar to what you would see, I guess, in some sort of German in Switzerland or whatever, but also in Norway today, the way they're singing, but kind of mixed with the South Danish of today, or even Bornholm. So it's really interesting how fast it actually evolves.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think we've been going a little while now. Have you guys got a little bit of time just to answer some questions from people watching? Yeah, if you've got a little bit of time, sure. We've got a few. Let me scroll up and see. Who's that? So I'll start with the first one. So how much of your lyrics come from runic inscriptions, or do you kind of have your own input there and kind of twist it and add to it, I guess?
I'm very, very happy that Mathias mentioned that he's writing an article about us, because he can calculate that when he's done in percent. I have no clue. No, of course, we have some songs like Krigsgalder, for example, has a part of the inscription from an old Norwegian runestone. And but there's also things that are no runes at all. For example, in Hamrahipia, there we have the Merseburg. Got to do something about this.
We have a puppy.
I was going to ask what was that?
Introduce it. She's been sleeping for like 1.5 hours. Amazing.
Oh wow!
Say hello. I know it's very dark.
Hello.
This is Luna. She's in training to be a tour dog.
What a good name as well.
And she's adorable.
She's amazing. Beautiful.
Oh, Kai, unfortunately, when a puppy comes on, then that's it. It steals the thunder.
Yeah. I mean, a puppy is way more powerful than me.
A puppy might be the most powerful thing ever, I think. It's certainly for me. Yeah. I just beeline straight for the puppy. So I think everybody's just forgotten where we got to then.
No, it was about runes and like how much of our stuff is runes, and but there's also stuff that has no runic source at all. That is just like the ordinary Latin writing. In Hamrahipia, for example, we have the Merseburg spells, and they were not written in runes. They come from a time when people knew about runes, at least in the north in Germany, were a bit very Christian at the time already, but also, like when you hear stuff like Gothic, the Gothic language, for example, that is also written in its own writing, which looks very runic to the untrained eye, but it is per definition. I hope I don't say anything wrong, but it is not really runes. The Gothic writing, right? I mean, like
it's derived from the Greek alphabet.
Yeah. So it's like in percentage, what is really what we really took from runic inscriptions is really hard for me to say. And like, I'm also like, again, I'm really happy that you write the article, because you will probably do my homework backwards, because as an artist, I don't really do all this like cross links and I took this from there and this from there. I just go through the material and I take out what I need. I read different translations from different people and like, make it match to my best knowledge and research. And then I forget about all this, you know. And then, you know, scientists, people that approach the whole thing from the scientific side, they make these like painstaking notes all the time that are for me very valuable when I read scientific publications, but I really suck at it. You know? So that's why I can't really answer that question.
Right. Okay, the next one is, I guess, can you talk about your next album? I'm not sure how much you can or can't say, and how much you want to keep under wraps.
You decide.
I decide?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just roll, Chris.
Okay, so...
Oh, no!
No, Luna has something to say? I don't know.
No, you don't say anything you don't want to say.
The waiting note when you call my phone. So what we're doing here, because we have a little bit extra time, is slowly growing into a very big piece. That is what I can say.
Okay.
And of course we're working on something. We are working on multiple things that is both moving forward in terms of amplifying history. So in terms of combining sources and combining traditions and areas, even times and all that. But we also looking backwards to what we really wanted to do in the very beginning, when everything was just dreaming, and everything was something that you know we never thought would happen anyway, because now we all of a sudden have the possibility of doing so, and so we are really again going really deep into ourselves in our own bubble here, and I think we are really getting somewhere. So I'm really happy of where we're going here, and it's very beautiful what is happening. But it's also like a really soul cleansing type thing, you know. It feels like we have gotten some scars, you know, from trying out this very personal thing in the public, and like we are healing ourselves somehow here together, and some days, you know, if the coffee machine is not working or something, when you just bought it for it's only costed I don't know $2,000 or something for a coffee machine. Maybe it should work more than a couple of weeks. I don't know, but anyway, anyway, the point is, one day, you know, you are very frustrated about something, or very sad, or another day you are very happy that you achieved something, and all these feelings is very real, and it's something we're really playing with here is our own emotions, I think, and really like taking the human part of what we're doing, where I think in many ways Ofnia and Fuda is both, you know, on an artistic level, a perspective of a man and a woman, not into maybe all the details, but more like a visualization of it, and this is definitely a visualization on being human, I think, and what it is within the yourself. Yeah, and you know that it's not everything is not, you know, everything is not happy, or everything is not being super angry all the time and war and all that, but it's like some sort of weird mixture of all these things that we all have inside of us.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated. So yeah, we're working on something new, and we never don't know when it will be done.
It's done when it's done.
It's done when it's done.
That's it. Okay, we've got two more. One is, how long does it take to put on the costumes before show?
How long what?
To put on the costumes, how long it takes.
That is yours, Maria.
Well, yeah, I guess so, because I'm the most complicated one. Yeah, well, so yeah, thanks for the question. And I'm very, very lucky to have a super good helper in Anike Sharain, which is a makeup artist and also a costume maker. So she has super skills in putting on the whole thing. So it takes me about, if we hurried, it would take an hour. But we don't hurry.
It's quite a while then.
Yeah, but still, you know, it's quite some steps in it, and yeah, the whole face paint takes a little time. I would say it takes longer to get it off. After the US tour, one of the warriors proclaimed that she had dark nails that had to grow out before they got white again. So for them, it also, how long time does the warrior use for their...
The warriors, they also use quite a while. I think when Maria says an hour, that is for most of us realistic. Although like for me, for example, I'm very free. Sometimes I even have the freedom to go out without body paint. And, but
on the stage, you mean?
On the stage, on the stage. But I'm in the preparation for a gig. I'm basically there for everyone. Like I paint one of the girls gets face painted by me. And sometimes I assist the warriors to apply some stuff, and there is a stitch that needs to be done here, like one of the warriors needed or needs bondage time before every show because he dislocated his arm several times, and even when he moves it, he dislocates it, So and I that also takes like 20 minutes, half an hour to give him the wrapping with the rope and like attach the antler that his arm really sits tight and everything. And but I think like everyone gets quite a bit of attention before a show.
Yeah, and it's a fun and hectic and very many laughs, and it's such a good group. The atmosphere is amazing backstage, both before and after the performance. People are just running around in each other's wardrobes, being silly. And it's
we
good.
Put the war back in wardrobe.
I really have like this picture of these monkeys sitting in these monkeys that sits in the lake, and take out small animals from the fur. That's kind of how it feels in this group.
That is also what it looks like. I mean, having experienced you guys backstage.
Like everyone's covering each other somehow.
Yeah, with lots of donuts for some reason.
Oh my god!
I really oh my god!
Don't mention donuts.
Like it was like tossing in candy, in the kindergarten or something. Everyone became totally sugar high. It was.
I developed a really big belly, but it had a giant hole in the middle. Like really big donuts.
I feel like I need to be backstage at a Heilung concert with donuts.
If you like donuts, you gotta come backstage Heilung, but only in America because in Europe we don't do that.
I'm actually thinking on putting some restrictions on the sugar intake.
No donuts.
like the donut Vikings,
Well, I mean, part of the backstory for that is also that down in Denver they have this really awesome donut shop called Voodoo Donuts, and it's like they.
One of the guys, he brought back a donut in fucking cock shape from that shop. Like a special present for me. And I'm like, what is this? Did you really like
and why?
Why not, man?
Why not?
I feel like there's been a theme in this episode.
It's because it's spring,
Yeah.
Okay, last question. I think Matt's gonna pop his camera on and ask it in person. There we go.
Hey, hello. Thanks for joining us today. I'm an opera singer by trade, and I'm fascinated by throat singing, and I would love to hear about your approaches to this very different from a Western classical style. This different type of singing. I would love to hear you guys talk about it a little more. Thanks.
I think thank you for the question. It's really a good question. So first of all, I would not say that what we do would be equal to other types of throat singing as you see in Siberia and Mongolia and all that. Even though, of course, it has some similarities, but what we do here is I believe there's a saying that at one time that someone that described how we sounded in the north was like barrels falling down of a hill and howling dogs or something like that. And and I think
it's about to find that place in your throat where it's between the place where it really destroys you, your vocal cords, and where it feels nice, and that is a very narrow area, but it can manifest itself in many different ways, and you can find like for instance the way Kai does his throat singing, which is amazing, is very different from the way I do it, and so it's about finding your place, but it's also the idea that like when a cat purrs, it kind of self-heals somehow, and there are definitely an element to that, I think, in throat singing. I think also it of course it's different from classical music in many ways what we do, and that is not only the vocal techniques, the very fact that we don't sing in 440 hertz as you would do in modern music, or even higher in some classical pieces. We are at least down on 433 or something like that, and we don't have progressions like chord progressions as you would, so we wouldn't be able to do the same resonating things. And this whole thing comes out of the idea that if you, for instance, take a flute, you have certain types of overtones that you know of. And if you're classical trained, that these ones is never in tune with the actual notes that you're supposed to play, because it doesn't add up. But that's because nature notes have, nature doesn't care what we think, really. So that's what we play with. We play with the nature overtones, and that to some ear maybe sound a bit out of tune, but it does sound in tune in what we do. And in throat singing specifically, you have the possibility to play with these overtones. So it's not only about the move and the deep part of it, but it's also about creating a resonating point in the higher region that will always be perfectly in tune with nature.
If I may follow up, I think you might be a little more closer to classical training than you think, because there is a lot of that overtones, at least with classical tenors. There's especially in the soft palate portion. If I'm not getting that,
I'm not referring to singing techniques because I'm classical trained myself. Cool. But I'm not talking about the fact that, of course, every resonator resonates in natural harmonics. Of course they do. That is not no different. But let me take the example of using a piano, or the 88 different instruments that can tune in one note that we refer to as a piano will be always tuned temperate, basically. So there can be different ways to achieve this, but the point is that it will never add completely up to nature harmonics, right? So we have to play a little bit with it. And the only thing I'm talking about here is, of course, we have fundamental notes and overtones and everything, but you can really play with it doing throat singing. And I think that is you can also do it in other techniques, like Maria definitely knows different kinds of ways to achieve that also. And you can even do these very high resonating stuff, like you hear in cooling, for instance, these hurt calls. And so there are different ways to achieve it. But I think it's the play with mimicking nature. And I think that is the fundamental of what we're trying to achieve here, more than calling it a specific throat singing from somewhere. But of course, we learn from what we can hear around, of course.
No, thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Was that a good answer?
I loved it. Thanks.
I can talk more if you want.
Don't let me stop you.
I feel like I had no idea what you just said, but I found it really interesting at the same time.
It's basically like carving runes in a horn. It's just different.
Well, there we go. Let's wrap this up. This has been been fun. I think this is the longest episode we've done so far as well. No, I really enjoyed it, and you guys are welcome back anytime, especially when you get around to releasing that album whenever it is.
Cool, man.
Nice.
Definitely.
Yeah, we can talk for hours about that.
I think we only scratched the surface, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when you can say more, then you are welcome back to come, because this has been really good fun. I've had a good laugh
Me too.
Perfect.
So, I don't know if you guys want to give any plugs out or shout out where people can find you individually, follow you.
No, please don't.
No, don't follow us. You know, you cannot find us. Do not follow any links, especially not the ones from Horns of Odin. And you know, it's all doomed anyway. You know, the volcano is breaking out in Iceland, and at the same time in Italy. Just forget about it.
What an end. We're all doomed.
No way. We just also want to say thank you to you guys for what you do.
Yeah.
Because it's been really interesting also to hear some of the podcasts you've been doing with some of our bandmates. Also, we've been loving to hear that and really like your perspective on anything. So we are very honored to be here talking with you guys also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think Emily Lorentzen is one of my favorite episodes we've had. Like, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because she and I were talking shit in Danish about you.
I mean, that's probably what it was. I still have no idea what you said about me, but I don't mind.
Hilarious. It's such a cool person, and I really enjoyed that episode a lot. Yeah,
there was a lot of fun. Yeah, no, thank you very much. Matthias, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram by my name, Mathias Nordvik. There you go. Boom.
There you go. I'll do the hard work, I guess. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a review. iTunes or Apple Podcasts is the best place to do it. Helps people find us, helps us bump up the ratings. We just hit 100 patrons, which means me and Matthias are now going to start our new show where we break down Vikings TV series episode by episode. One episode a week. We're going to tell you what we like, what we don't like. We're going to ridicule it, but also, you know, it is a good fun as well. People will be invited to watch along with that.
I'm so much looking forward to that. It's going to be hilarious.
Fun,
Me too. Hopefully we'll get special guests on each episode as well. So if you guys ever want to join us individually or together, we can watch an episode and let people know what you think of it.
You watch it together, yeah?
Yeah. So what we're gonna do
like
is
a reaction video, that kind of thing.
Effectively, yeah. So we're gonna watch up. Either we're gonna get it up on here and stream it, or we will let people know when we're going to start it so everyone can watch it at the same time. So they can watch the episode, but also me and Matthias are going to give our opinions on it. And obviously Matthias will let us know what's accurate or not. So yeah, it should be good fun. Because I know, even, you know, jokes aside, watching the show, I think there's a lot that I've always wanted to know whether it was real or not, and what was accurate and what wasn't. Because obviously there must be some in there that's true. Can't all be.
Just
fiction.
love that the town is called Kattegat. You know,
Oh yeah, no,
it's just fantastic.
I think you should join watching an episode.
Oh, here we go to my hometown, the North Sea. You know, fantastic.
Do you guys know where the word comes from?
Kattegat? No, the only thing I know is in Dutch it means cat shit or something.
Cat asshole.
I saw that.
It means cat asshole, and that's actually the only actual like explanation for the history of that word. That it's the Dutch that in like the 1600s called the Danish sea Kattegat because it was like narrow to get through or something like that for this the sailing road.
Makes sense.
So it has nothing to do with the Viking Age at all.
Yeah, I read the other day that Kattegat was called different, but I forgot how did they call it? Do you remember that?
No, I actually don't. This is
Noah.
It was something with
like we have Østersø.
Yeah, it was something like Jyllandsø eller Sjælland. I don't remember it, but it had it said as well that Kattegat is younger. But good to know.
Yeah, no, there's got to be a word for it somewhere in the saga somewhere. I'm gonna have to like dig around for that. Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually.
That would be a nice thing to learn. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But sorry for sucking with the sources so much. Otherwise, I could say, okay, was that book, that page, and that line?
You're allowed to, guys. Yeah.
But
lovely to talk to all of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
To talk to you guys.
You are welcome back anytime. Thank you very much.